far too many people out there on the internet feeding bullshit. When they want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. That is the problem with dog training. People are telling you what you want to hear and you're not being told the truth. This video is probably 4 years old. I stand by everything I said in this video. This is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Let's start with the basics. How long have you been a gun dog trainer for?
30 years plus.
And what sort of level did you get to with gun dogs?
Competition. Within the first 10 years of running dogs in competition, I won with 7 dogs in trials, every one of them individually trained by myself, and they all won tests as well. Over 150 awards with those dogs.
Right, going to stop there a sec. Bring this down a bit. That's better. So this took us up to about 2000 and
probably 15 years ago, up to 15 years ago roughly, that I pulled out of the trialing scene because of a number of reasons, corruption being one of them.
So you accuse the trialers of corruption?
I actually exposed a number of A panel judges and B panel judges with corruption. I actually got banned for 10 years from a single club in Cornwall. I've been reinstated to that club and I've been cleared of any wrongdoing, but it took 5 years to clear my good name.
Would you do that again?
In hindsight, I thought I was good enough and proved myself in the field, as in the gun dog world. I'd got a good reputation as a trainer, and I felt that you should be winning on merit and not on the fact of who you're in with and who you know and who you hang around with. And so I distanced myself from those people. And then they realised I wasn't willing to play that game of corruption. And that's when I exposed them to my own committee. Because of the power they had, they turned the whole committee against me. And I think I'm the only person in the country to ever get a 10-year ban for actually exposing a bunch of cheats. They tried to deny it for 5 years. Eventually it all came out. They've all left the club and moved on. One of the A panel judges is still judging. I think that's terrible, but at the end of the day, that's the way the trial system is. What they tried to do is bury it because they didn't want it to be an embarrassment for the trial world. And I didn't want to ruin the club. I didn't want to close the club down. So I said, as long as you look at the evidence, decide whether I'm guilty or not guilty of any offences. They came back after looking at the evidence properly after 5 years. The allegations made against me was unreal. You know, that I was a bully, I intimidated people. But none of that was proven, none of it was ever proven, it was just hearsay. But that hearsay, because of their positions of panel judges, got them to the point that they had power and they controlled the power with power. And I wasn't playing that game. I'm good enough to train dogs to win on merit.
Now, if you can't compete and you're a professional gun dog trainer, what does that leave you doing?
Well, I can compete, but I'm not willing to play the game that they want me to play.
Sorry, if
Yeah.
for those 10 years you couldn't compete?
No. I could compete, but from one club I couldn't run my dogs. But the problem is, that sticks with other clubs then, and they think you're a troublemaker because your local club is saying that you are a troublemaker. So all of a sudden a lot of people turn against you, thinking that, hang on, he's out to cause trouble by highlighting what's not right in the gun dog world. So you get knocked back every time you run a dog, or the certain judges you just couldn't run under, and that's a shame really. That's not the way trialling should be.
Okay, now that takes us up to about 2009, isn't it, when you got... you had about 5 relatively quiet years, and then it's all kicked off again, hasn't it?
Well, because of the quiet years with the trialling world, and the people turned their backs on me, because I was doing the training classes, the gun dog demonstrations, I was doing seminars all over the world, that closed down a little bit. And so I thought, right, I'm going to just do what I love doing, training dogs. So I went into training dogs for shooting people, and shooting people mostly. I do still try to train a few dogs for trial people, but it's not my passion. My passion is training dogs for shooting folk.
What the world saw was pictures of you, as far as they could tell. I mean, the accusations were lifting a dog off the floor by its ears, swinging a dog around by its ears, and you saying, well, that's perfectly right, those are perfectly acceptable training methods. What really happened?
I've never said that that's acceptable training methods. It's as simple as that. I believe that we should be honest and open with people. As professionals, we have a duty of care to these animals, and we have a duty of care to the people we train, that we have to say, this is acceptable as discipline and this is not acceptable. As for swinging dogs around by the ears and beating them, there is no videos out there. Yes, it looks like the dog's being picked by the ears, but it's actually being picked by the scruff, and I can explain why, and it's really an important issue. Why? Because so many people are using electric collars, and if a dog's had a pain on the side of its neck and you go to grab the scruff, it'll turn and bite you, whether it's a soft dog or hard dog, if they've abused the electric collar and not used it properly. I'm not a fan of electric collars. I've never used electric collars myself, but I would always look into something before giving my opinion, and I've watched other people use them and I've seen dogs messed up with them. That doesn't mean the modern collar isn't better and the system's better, but when I was winning with competition dogs, people were putting collars on the dogs and frying them, and that's not acceptable. And I've never ever seen a good dog trained with electric collar as a gun dog.
But there is an issue, I mean, the issue which people are bringing up about you, and it kind of comes down to, is it as simple as say, do you smack a dog or not?
I use correction. I use the flat of my hand on the base of the backside, right at the bottom of the tail. I pick a dog up by the scruff, I place it back on the spot, I use discipline. But discipline is completely different to cruelty. I mean, we're arguing about an ideology here, that you've got a set of people who believe everything should be positive and only treat training and clicker training. You can't go down that road for a gun dog that's going to be put under extreme pressure.
So this is a kind of gun dog versus fluffy dog argument.
Without fail, it's a gun dog versus fluffy dog situation, but it's created by both sides. One side trying to sell an ideology because they want customers, so they say, if you come to me, we use humane methods and only love and affection, and we kiss your dog and we stroke it and we give it treats. The other side is that the average gun dog trainer who does use discipline, who is a good gun dog trainer, who's got a reputation for being a good dog trainer, done well in competition as well as training dogs for people, they are scared to come forward and say what they really do because of the peer pressure from the fluffy gangs.
Did you know, when you were putting your head above the parapet on this issue, that you were going to be the sort of the centre of the feeding frenzy, the sort of the really bit that everyone wants to go for?
I think, to be honest with you, I'm very naive. I didn't realise it would be to this extent, but I'd made a calculated decision that I wanted to be honest to people. It's not acceptable to take a dog behind a shed and give it a kicking, like some people will do, on the grounds that that's training and the dog will listen to you when you come back round the corner. That is not how we should be educating people. But we shouldn't be lying to people and saying that discipline frightens dogs, worries dogs, dogs will never respond from that. My videos show that discipline works, but it's knowing how much discipline and when to give discipline. And if people aren't willing to stand up and say it, then how will people learn and move on in the future? The internet is a modern thing, really. We had books before. They never even wanted to talk about discipline in books. They skirted over it. But if you went to them for training, they'd show you discipline. And they'd show you forms of discipline that are a lot harder than we are now. And we have moved forward with our training. And we do use more humane ways of training. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's an important factor. So if we use, I personally use 95% fun-based training, like my videos show, but 5%, I can't hide the fact we use discipline. That's the difference.
Is there any way of reconciling the kind of basic obedience street training and the gun dog world where you need it to do more than that, therefore you have to bring in discipline?
A dog needs to learn to cope with pressure. What they're saying is that you shouldn't put pressure on any animal these days, and if a dog's not learned to cope with pressure, then it gets on a shoot and it gets into the chase, you'll never stop it. And I see so many people coming to me who are lost in the gun dog world because people are not actually telling them the truth, how to train and how to get the best from the dog. A lot of these top guys are brilliant trainers, but they are not showing people the extent that they train and discipline because of the fear factor. So you're not getting a true reflection of what the situation is.
Talking about, and particularly the difference between tests and trials and the shooting world, because you're now mainly in the shooting world, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Are there different training methods there? I mean, if we're talking about all gun dog training, is it the same thing?
No, when I first started off 30 odd years ago, it was obedience training you put into a dog before you did anything. We've moved forward in all forms of dog training, whether it's gun dog training, police dog training, sniffer dog training, all aspects, and I've studied everything, and I've worked with the police, and I've worked with a number of different institutions with dog training, and it's come down to the fact that you've got one side saying everything should be positive and only treat training and love and affection, and the other side saying we can't do it without that. If you put these dogs under, and we're talking about sports dogs normally, working dogs, whether they're going to work in the field, not pets come weekend out once in a blue moon, they're going to be put under great temptation with thousands of birds dropping around them if they're doing the jobs properly. And if you want control, you're going to have obedience. But if you put obedience in too soon, you suppress the dog. Then the dog's not going to misbehave, not going to try it on, but he's not going to have the drive that these competition dogs have got. If you want a competition dog, you've got to allow the drive. And I've learned over the years that if you allow the competition, the drive to come there for the competition dog, you then put the obedience in afterwards. That way it doesn't suppress the dog. People are now seeing this on my videos and loving it because they've been taught the old school, suppress it to start with, and then gradually introduce it to the game. My idea is let it run in, run in, run in. Once it's got that drive and that enthusiasm, you're going to have to give a little bit of discipline to slow it down and stop it, but discipline has to be within the parameters of acceptance, what's acceptable, what's not cruelty. You mustn't cross the line.
Lovely. Just that shot of the pheasants raining down. One of them hits a little UTV, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then one lands in the water. Can you just talk me through what's happening in that?
Well, in that situation there, on that one drive alone, I probably picked 40 birds if you watch the whole video. And the idea is the birds that are dropping around the dog, he's not allowed to pick unless I ask him to. He's supposed to just sit there, but I shouldn't be telling him to not move. He should just sit there. He should only go for the birds I ask him to. One of the birds, the earlier birds, comes down into the brook and goes down the stream. So I sent him for the one in the brook, and I send him for the runners out the back, and then we'll pick the dead ones afterwards, or when I say he can pick them, when it goes quiet on a drive. The idea is if you want that control, you're going to have your discipline in your training. If not, you've got to keep your dog on a lead until the end of the drive and then just let it run riot and pick anything it can find. That's a different sort of training altogether, and there's plenty of people on shoots who haven't got any control. I don't knock them people. It's down to each person's preference. But I come from the competition world where the standard has to be high, and I've realised over the years that you don't need to regimentally train a dog to get the best out of it. We've moved on with every aspect in life. The army's the same. We don't need to beast people non-stop, and yet they still need discipline, and it's the same with all forms of life, the same with your children. So we can relate it to everything, whether it's a sniffer dog, whether it's a police protection dog or protection sports. Those dogs need to be able to release when told. The problem is they can't get them to release because they're not training them right. But I can show you, and my videos show you, that how to have both sides of the story. A well-controlled dog using a little bit of discipline, but 95% fun-based training.
Okay, now let's talk about the kind of the horror aspect of it all, because you have had a fairly rough couple of years. Can you sort of give me the history of what's happened?
I've had an unbelievable 4 years. At the end of the day, I didn't realise there was so much hate on the internet. I mean, the internet is a wonderful tool, a fantastic reference tool, but there's so much lies and things that people tell novice people, and they wouldn't know, because unless you've been there and done it, you wouldn't know. It's as simple as that. So people are believing anything, what they're watching on the internet. The problem is, the internet then becomes a bad tool and dangerous when it's unmanned. And it is unmanned. It's a free-for-all. And at the end of the day, if you haven't got disciplines, rules set and boundaries, then who's going to police it? The police don't want to police it because they say they haven't got the manpower. So people can make threats to kill. They can tell people that you beat and kick dogs for a living, and it's slander, but it's cost you X amount of money to take them to court, over £20,000 for each civil law case to take somebody to court. You can't go after everybody. So if you put your head above the parapet, you've got to accept you're going to be shot at. As long as I'm shot at fairly, you're allowed to disagree with my methods of training. But what I don't like is the fact that they take my videos, edit them, and only show the discipline side and not show the whole story. My videos are there for people to make judgment themselves by looking at them and saying, okay, we might not like that, but I like that. Then decide whether they want to carry on watching the videos or not. It's a free country. If you don't like them, don't watch them. But the one thing I feel that we need to do as gun dog trainers, if we're professionals, is be honest. There's no point in saying we don't use discipline, but actually, on the quiet, use discipline, because we're misleading people. And that's what made me stand up and be honest about what we do use and what's acceptable in my eyes. Your opinion might be different to my opinion, but we can agree to disagree. But I wouldn't send you hate mail, or I wouldn't go out of my way to rubbish your business and your life. And I'm so privileged to have customers who trust me with their dogs. But I've lost customers because of the hatred and the slander that these people put out there.
Let's just going through the nuts and bolts of what happened. When did you first learn, or when did you first feel that the internet was basically turning against you, or the people on the internet were going for you?
I had a private Facebook page that was closed, and it was only there for people who train dogs.
Did you close it, or was
I closed it for one reason, because of antis and because of people who are against the sport of killing, and so I didn't want to upset the world. I knew I would be pushing it out there for everyone to see, and it could turn against me. So I had it closed to begin with. Then I started viewing the internet, and as the internet started progressing, people started putting up videos. They were putting up knocking birds on the head. They were putting up disciplining dogs. They were putting up using electric collars. The American market talk about it a lot, right? The English hide everything under the carpet and pretend it's not happening. And that's the problem with society. If we don't talk about it, when we lose the fact that we can use discipline, and when I talk about discipline, I don't mean punishment. This is the important thing. Punishment is completely different. If the dog's done something wrong and when he gets back inside I then put him to bed and don't give him any food, that's punishment. He ain't going to learn from that. If you're correcting a dog at the right moment, the dog can understand and relate to that, but you can't punish a dog further down the line 10 minutes after the dog's done something wrong, because the dog won't understand. But the dog works for a social bond between you and the dog. And if your social bond is right and that dog upsets you and you use discipline or correction, then that dog says, oh, I've upset my master, I don't want to do that, I want to be on his side, and so he works to be on your side.
Lovely. I want to get to your feeling about this. So presumably somebody nicked all your videos, cut them into something that was for whatever reason was anti you. When did you first learn about that, and what did you think about that?
About 3 years ago, they started editing my videos rather than just putting my videos up. They started editing them by cutting them, adding loads of them together, just the discipline sides, and then writing voiceover on lots of it, saying this isn't acceptable, that's not acceptable, look at that poor dog, look at this, look at that. What they don't realise, because they're not educated in the dog training, they don't realise that some dogs come to me nervous wrecks. That's not because they've been beaten, that's because of their temperaments. You've got to get them out of themselves. So old school, you wouldn't train with discipline to start with. You've got to get them on your side and get them to be, it's got to be fun. It's got to be a game that they're playing. Then you can start using discipline, and discipline works. But it doesn't work if you just bring a dog in the field, instantly discipline it, and the dog goes, hang on, I don't trust you. So you have to build that social bond. And it's so important that people aren't talking about building a social bond. Anybody can discipline a dog and knock it back and suppress it. But it doesn't mean it's doing it because it wants to do it. The skill now is to get these animals to want to do these things for us.
Okay, so they've put the videos up online, and then they start spreading them around groups. Now, why is it that the gun dog world didn't say, well, that's just a normal part of gun dog training? Why did people not back you up?
A lot of people do back me up on these forums and say go away, and these videos get taken down on the sensible forums. But when it comes to a forum like the Springer Spaniel or Cocker friendly site, loving pictures, she knows, my main hate campaigner, we call her the bunny boiler, she knows that she can post those videos on there and get massive response saying, well done, it needs to be exposed, what a wonderful person you are, a caring, loving person. So she gets on that dopamine buzz of, wow, everyone's contacting me and giving me feedback. She's got no feedback, she's got nobody really interested in her until she rubbishes other people.
Lovely. What's been the sort of the actual knock on? I know that at one stage the police took away your guns, didn't they?
Yep, because of allegations that she made that were slanderous and not true, the police had to act because they felt that until they'd looked into it, I might not have been a fit and proper person to own my guns. I totally understand that because of safety. But once they'd looked into it, I think personally I should have had my guns back straight away without going to court. But it's my option then whether to fight that, and I wanted to fight it. I'd done nothing wrong. I went to court. That cost £5,000 to get my guns back. I got them back very quickly, but all because of allegations made. And then when they went back to this person, the same person, the bunny boiler, they couldn't substantiate them because they had no proof. There was no proof there, so they had to give the guns back. The Crown Court judge was fantastic, and he said, this is this man's tools of the trade, and that's what they are. They're tools of the trade. I need them to do the job I've done. I've had them for 30 odd years. I've never got myself into trouble. I've kept myself out of trouble. I have to monitor what I say to people, but people seem to be able to say what they want to say to me because they got freedom of speech, but they don't own shotguns. Anybody with a gun license, I understand you've got to be sensible, but you shouldn't have your freedom of speech taken away. You have a right to defend your good name, and at the end of the day, sometimes you can be assertive when talking to people and get a point across, and other times you have to be totally professional and acting to win hearts and minds. And I do believe that, if the internet was monitored, it would be a better place. But who's going to monitor it?
What are you doing to get over this whole issue?
It's not me so much. It's my wife. It's my family. It's the stress it causes them. They're not as strong as me. I'm quite a strong guy. Like I said to you earlier, I stood up for the trial world and took them on and said, I don't like cheats. And I was willing to take the knocks for it. I was more interested in integrity than winning. Winning is not everything. Winning is fantastic, but it's got to be won because you've got the best dog on the day. And it's the same with this. I can take these people on and I ignore the hate that comes through on a regular basis. But the one thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to now show, where I didn't at one point, that this woman is an instigator of all this trouble. She's never met me, she's never trained with me, and yet she's gone out of her way because I think, and she's already said it, that she's been to trainers who have abused dogs and she's actually watched this. So she thinks to get the response that I've got and the control and the nice training I have got, it must be because he beats them, because she can't do it herself. There's a lot more into it. It's deeper psychology. It's movement, timing. It's all these things. It's not just visual. You wouldn't understand unless you'd been doing it for 30 years. I'm a master at my craft, at training problem dogs. And when people bring dogs here and they've gone across there, they could be on the road within 5 minutes and dead. My job is to get them back, get them to listen to you, and then they can have a wonderful life in the field, working in the field. Without that, if you take away correction, discipline from us gun dog trainers, then we might as well all stop, because without that we can't work dogs. If we're being honest.
I've got to ask you did lose your rag with her once, and she rather publicly recorded it and put it on YouTube. How did that come about?
5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody sent me a link saying, have you seen her latest video that she's done on you? And I looked at it. I could not believe how she said I'm kicking and beating dogs. This is 2 years on this 8 campaign, and what happens is every time she puts up another video, it goes mental. The phone goes, the internet, the phones and everything, the internet just keeps bang bang tripping off. We have to switch it off because it goes mental for about 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden it starts to die down again, because what happens then, people come onto my YouTube site, they look at my videos and think, hang on, this bloke ain't what they're making out to be, right? And so at the end of the day, it tends to go away then a little bit. So she then brings it back out again in another about 8-9 months with another video. So each year, and she's trying to work out where she can post a video to get major attention from other people. And that's where the damage is being caused, because mud sticks. Is that the same what they say? I think that's the saying. At the end of the day, that's, you make accusations against somebody, they may be totally innocent, but other people will believe it and then get on the bandwagon. And I've had other people then sharing it, saying this bloke beats dogs. I've actually watched him at trials and he's useless. I haven't trialled for 8 years. So how do they know? Because they've only been running dogs for 2 years. They've never met me at a trial running a dog, because I haven't run a dog, and they're in Surrey. But they're gun dog trainers, and they train exactly the way she does, with fluffy techniques, but they train pets. And they don't just train gun dogs, they train pets. I'm a gun dog specialist, but I could train pets in my sleep. But would I have to use so much discipline? No, because they're not going to be put under the same temptation as a dog with birds dropping all around it, flapping. And the temptation that those dogs will be under, the same as a police dog calling a police dog off. Once he's had a number of bites, he don't want to let go. He don't want to sit there when you put him in there and say release. So they have to use discipline to make him release. So the discipline works, but now even the police have had that taken off them, because society now says you can't do that. No one can train this way anymore. We're going too far one way because of the way peer pressure is. That's what it's down to.
All right, going back to that particular morning. So you got the email at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you rang her up and said,
I got the email at sorry. I got the email at 4 o'clock in the morning. I sat there. I answer about 30 or 40 emails, because people asking me question after question of how to train a dog, how to get this, and I'm not getting paid for this. This is all free to help people, because I've realised how many people are struggling, and I just don't want them to get ripped off and turned over. So I'm helping people. Then this one comes through saying, have you seen this from this woman? She's kicked off again, Chris. This is going to be dead damaging. It says he beats and kicks dogs for a living, right? At the end of the day, I then was so angry. I phoned her up. I had a phone number. I've not been giving her harassment. I left her alone because I thought, I can't debate with you. You're wasting time debating with. I phoned her up in a private message, and in the background, a guy starts swearing at me after I started speaking to her normally at first, saying, pass me the effing phone, I'll tell him. Then I upped my ante and I swore at her, and she thinks she's being clever because she's edited the conversation and only said that she lives in Scotland, she's on her own, and she felt intimidated and threatened, when in fact, if they went back and looked at the evidence properly, they'd see that she lives with a bloke who she's not supposed to be living with, who was in the bedroom, obviously, when I called. She says that the reason that he wasn't on the conversation, the reason that the conversation is only partly of a phone conversation, is because she doesn't know how to work her phone and didn't know how to switch it on. And so she eventually switched it on halfway through the conversation. So you get, yet again, more slander and more lies. I got a resolution order for swearing at someone down the phone in a private message, not having a fight on the internet for all the public to see. I asked her, why can't you leave me alone? I was abusive towards her, as in verbally, but not threatening her in any way that I was going to come and get her or anything like this. I said, why can't you leave me alone? You've never trained with me, you've never seen me kick and beat dogs, and you're going out of your way to ruin a man's life and his family. They only show you what they want to show you.
That's absolutely brilliant. Is there anything else you want to say? And the trouble with these interviews is that generally you think of 15 things you should have said, but what's nice about this is the way you've said it.
Why is that, Charlie?
Because it's
passionate.
You've been talking to me,
yeah,
and they've been watching that.
Yeah.
So that's been really important. And so it won't be worth you sort of recording something and just saying it.
Yeah.
You have.
Do you think I've been too loud?
Yes, but you are.
All right.
It's up to me to sort that out. Oh, see, no.
Can I just say something about that?
Yeah, go on.
That's magic. One of the things is there's a very fine line between arrogance and confidence.
Yes. And
a lot of people take me over the phone because I'm a big guy. I'm quite loud. Everyone says, "Oh, Chris is dead loud," but once you actually get to know him, he's generally a friendly giant. At the end of the day, I can stand up for myself. I'm a big guy. I can look after myself. I don't go out of my way to rubbish people. At the end of the day, how other people train is up to them. But if I saw cruelty, I'd report cruelty. It's as simple as that. Because I'm not promoting cruelty to animals. I'm promoting correction and education. And education and correction, then you can agree or disagree, and I take that all day long. But not hate, not a campaign that becomes so toxic it ruins people's lives. And that's why no one will come forward and give honest opinions in the gun dog world, let alone the dog training world in this country, because of the fear factor, the peer pressure from this group of people that are saying that's the only way. If that's the only way, my argument is this: put your videos up and show us. Show us dogs under temptation that I put my dogs in, and under great pressure, that you can stop them on a sixpence, cast them out, and they go out with drive and desire. Not walk out there, not mess around coming back and you tell them 10 times, but they are sharp on the whistle. I've had people saying, isn't he cruel? He calls the dog in on a whistle. You know, it's absolutely pathetic, because they don't have no understanding of what we do out in the countryside. I supported the countryside rally. On 2 occasions I went to London. I've never been fox hunting, but I supported it on the principle of that they have a right to do something if it's within the law of this land. And until they change the laws, and this is the same thing with electric collars, you can't use electric collar in Wales. Scotland want to ban them. England want to ban them, but they're now beginning to realise that they've been missold an ideology that they're dangerous, they burn dogs, they do this, they do that. Actually, used properly, in the right concept, they actually work on problem dogs if you need to solve the problem quickly. That doesn't mean you've solved the problem forever, but you've corrected the dog. But do I use them? No, because I like to get the social bond with the dog rather than just zapping a dog. And that's why it's important to me. There's a balance between what I like, but would I rubbish somebody who uses electric collars? It's not my job. It's their decision. I might not like it, but I have a right to say they're cruel, but I'm not cruel. There's a difference between, we have to accept what other people like in this world. The same as you know, pigeon shooting, fox hunting, anything. Why should we rubbish them if that's what they want to do? It's within the rules of this land. We are trying to be dictated to by everything we do. Even the Kennel Club are now saying, in their opinion, everything should be positive and positive only. And yet, on the quiet, they'll turn around to me and say, listen, Chris, we know you do it, and we know gun dog people do it, but we mustn't be seen to be agreeing with you. And that's the problem with the same with BASC. They are very quick to say, we want the fluffy gang who go to the scurries and throw dummies. We don't want to lose that revenue, but we understand you do it, but we can't be seen to be liking it, because we've got to sit on the fence. We've got to wear 2 umbrellas. We come under 2 different categories. We've got to please them and we've got to please them. And the Kennel Club is exactly the same. They've got people who are not happy with discipline, so they don't want to lose that income, so they mustn't be seen to be getting too involved in this. And so that's why the national press haven't gone with this, because the hate campaign that has come down on me to the level it has, people have taken their own lives and you know, it's ruined their whole lives, right? 30 years of mastering an art, training dogs to a very high standard, all of a sudden wrecked by hatred. And that's what it is, because they can now see 2,500 videos and be constructive with their opinions, but they're not. They're editing only the discipline because they're trying to promote their own way of training. Sorry to go on.
So this is the latest sad individual who's got on the bandwagon to try and rubbish me to promote himself. Isn't it sad when you've only got 91 subscribers and you're an ex-TV star on Dog Borstal? I wasn't impressed with Dog Borstal, and I'm not impressed by your videos, Robert. But I've never gone out of my way to rubbish you as a trainer. I've gone out of my way to rubbish you as an individual, as a liar, as a person who slanders others for your own gain. You've joined the bandwagon. You've listened to an idiot in Scotland, and you've believed everything she's told you, when in fact, I don't mind talking about it. I offered you live debate, you turned me down. You didn't turn up. I was looking forward to it, Robert, because I was going to expose you as a liar, and I was going to see if you were going to apologise in public, because I was going to prove to you that the things you've said about me are complete and utter lies. If you want to critique my videos, feel free, but when you get bitter and twisted, and you manipulate and edit, and you even take people's videos that they've edited of mine, you're a sad individual, and you need exposing for what you are. Get a life, Robert. So if you're struggling and you really want to see the real Chris Upton and you really want to know how to train a dog, come over to Patreon, Chris Upton at Corleone Gun Dogs, and join a group of people that get results. We have a number of trainers on there up and down the country that can help you. This is why it's so important to keep building a platform.